Hello everyone, I'm Zookeeper Joe and I'm here with the North American river otters in the swamp building at Brookfield Zoo. I'd like to talk to you today about our two otters we have here. We have our male, Benny, who is swimming on the other side. He is 16 years old. He came to us from another zoo, and his partner in crime is Charlotte. She is 11 years old. So these North American river otters can be found in the Pacific Northwest, up through a lot of Canada, and pretty much east of the Mississippi. These two animals here were born in zoos. Their condition in the wild is least concern. They estimate well over 100,000 in the wild. There was a period of time that these animals were hunted for their fur, but now they've made a pretty strong comeback, especially in the Illinois area. So as you know, river otters love the water, hence they get that name, river otter. So these otters are specially adapted to hunt and live in bodies of water. They have webbed feet on both front and back legs. They can hold their breath for over 4 minutes. They have a beautiful fur coat that actually keeps them warm and keeps the water out. They're playing with each other. So that's Charlotte on the bottom and Benny on the top. So one adaptation, or sort of adaptation that they have in the wild to help hunt for fish in the water, is they actually are nearsighted. So they can see the fish up close, but far away they won't be able to see them. This is typically roughhousing between the two. Charlotte is mostly the instigator, and now she's on top, wrestling with Benny. So they don't only eat fish, they also eat items such as crustaceans, oysters, clams, and for those they have to scavenge around on the bottom of the rivers, and they have an excellent sense of touch in their feet, so they can feel that little creepy crawly delicious animal in the soil, and they'll just root it out and go ahead and eat it. So if you come and visit Benny and Charlotte, Benny is bigger. He's about 5% bigger. He weighs about 17 pounds, where Charlotte only weighs about 14 pounds. Benny has a larger nose, and Charlotte is more streamlined. If she comes up close, you'll be able to see her little nose. They're going to groom and cuddle in the back. So a lot of interesting things about otters. One, of course, is their breeding cycle. They breed roughly in the early spring, and they have something called delayed implantation. Delayed implantation is where a fertilized embryo waits to be implanted in the female until the situation is right in the wild. So Charlotte here could be pregnant right now, or be pseudo-pregnant, and we wouldn't know. We wouldn't know until she starts to gestate that embryo roughly around Christmas, January. They typically give birth sometime in February or March. The average pup or litter size is about 1 to 3. They can have up to 5. Those little guys come out blind, or they have their eyes shut. They have fur and no teeth. It only takes a couple months for the otters to get out here and start to walk around. They start to swim around that time, about 2 months. And she teaches them to swim. Charlotte here has had 2 kids. They're at other institutions. So we'll see, hopefully we'll have some kids maybe come next year. So another interesting fact about these otters is how fast they can swim. It doesn't seem like much to, say, a fish, but these guys can swim about 7 miles an hour in the water at the fastest speed. Now, the fastest human on the planet has only been known to swim 6 miles an hour. So it's pretty impressive for underwater. On average, a normal human can swim about 4 miles an hour. Now, that's where they excel. On land, they're kind of clumsy. But that doesn't mean they can't run fast and they can't defend themselves. Those jaws they have make easy work of a large fish, such as a bass or a big herring. It can easily crunch through the exoskeleton of a crayfish or something similar to that. So you did see them playing earlier. These two animals really just like each other. They like us keepers. The only fact that we bring them food is pretty much the biggest thing. But they do wrestle and they play. They chase each other. The kids are quite fun to have around. They tend to pick on Dad a lot.
How long do they live?
How long do they live? These guys in captivity can easily live about 20 years. In the wild, it's about half of that on average.
Where do they sleep?
Where do they sleep? So on exhibit, they'll sleep in the back in the exhibit on the rocks. When they are asleep off exhibit, when it's nice and quiet here, they have their beds in the back holding areas.
What makes them different from sea otters?
What makes them different from sea otters? These guys are much smaller than sea otters. They don't sleep in the water like sea otters have been known to do. The sea otters are the ones that you will see grouped together, hold each other's hands, and kind of just float in the water. These guys are not made for that. That was a little chirp from Charlotte.
That's great, because the next question was, do they make any noises?
Do they make any noises? They make a wide variety of noises. They make noises such as grunts. They make some food for them. They make grunts, they make whistles, chuffs, kind of like a cat. They scream if they don't like something. They do scream at us on occasion when we don't feed them fast enough.
What are their favorite foods?
What are their favorite foods? One of their favorite foods is shrimp, which I'm throwing in there now. They get a wide variety of fish here. They get 3 different fish. They get herring, capelet, and smelt. As treats, they get shrimp, oysters, clams, mussels. They get crayfish on occasion. And surprisingly enough, otters like carrots and green peppers.
Can you remind us again which is which?
Yes. So I'm going to bring them up front. Let's see if we can get a nice close view. So this is Benny, and this is Charlotte. So Benny has a big nose, and Charlotte is very, in my opinion, streamlined. She's very thin, petite. She's up here chewing, and this is Ben.
And how old are they?
How old are they? Benny is 16 years old, and Charlotte is 11. They just turned that this year. They had birthdays early on in this year. Benny's was in March, and Charlotte's is in February.
How long can they hold their breath?
They can hold their breath for 4 minutes.
Do they use rocks?
They do use rocks. Actually, that's a great question. They use rocks to wring the water out of their fur. They actually roll around on a pile of rocks. That's why we have rocks in the exhibit. They actually roll and wring that excess water out.
Are they endangered?
They are not endangered. This particular species is not endangered. On the list, they're considered least concern.
Sorry, my radio up. Let's see. What kind of predators do they have?
What kind of predators? You know, in the water, their predators, depending on where they are, might be an American alligator, but that's pretty uncommon. Their main predators are actually when they come out on land. Now they do spend a good amount of time on land, moving from location to location to find better fishing spots. On land, their predators range from bears to bobcats, mountain lions, foxes, a lot of the big canine species.
How many species of river otter are there?
There's just one, the North American river otter. There are multiple species of otters. We have two species here at Brookfield Zoo. We have a small clawed otter, and then we have the North American river otter.
What kind of enrichment do they get?
What kind of enrichment? These guys love new enrichment. So anything that they haven't seen before, they're very inquisitive. Here they have a lot of stuff that can float and sink in their pools. Balls, any type of objects. They love swimming through tunnels. We have a big fake log on exhibit that they swim through constantly. So any type of thing they can really interact with in that aspect, especially in the pool. If it isn't in the pool, they typically push it in the pool so they can play with it there.
How can they change swimming directions so quickly?
They're perfectly adapted to swimming and hunting in the water. Here at Brookfield Zoo on Wednesdays, we actually give them live minnows. And to watch them catch those minnows is very impressive. And you watch that swiftly changing directions and twisting and contorting their body. They're meant to follow an erratic swimming fish. And they're very bendy.
Are they native to Illinois?
They are. For a long time, they were not in Illinois, or their numbers were very, very low. Due to pollution in the water, that reduced the amount of fish, so they left. If there's not enough fish to eat, they'll move. But actually, within the last several decades, there was a massive boom, and these guys came back. We cleaned the rivers, the fish population increased, and people have seen otters swimming along our creeks and our rivers in the area.
What other animals are they related to?
What else are they related to? The otters are in the Stellidae family of animals, and it has a wide range of animals from big to small. They're related to wolverines, badgers, ferrets. Everybody knows ferrets. Those type of animals.
Are their tails made of cartilage, or do they have bones?
They do have bone in there. There's a good set of bone in there.
Great. Can you tell us a little bit about their ears?
Their ears. They have decent hearing. It is very small. Ears compared to their overall body size. They do have an ability to kind of close it off so they don't get too much water in there.
Yeah, they do kind of remind me of sea lion ears.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Underwater, you don't really need to hear very well, so that's why they are reduced in size. Kind of a minimalist creation.
Can you remind us where their babies are located now?
There are two babies, Kate and Jack. I believe Kate is up in Calgary Zoo, and Jack is, I believe, down in Houston, at Houston Zoo, to the best of my recollection. That was many, many years ago.
Do they have big teeth?
Do they have big teeth? They have pretty good size canines. They have 36 teeth in their mouth. They have 4 big canines, 2 on top, 2 on the bottom, and they can deliver quite a good bite. So many people always love how cute they are and how I love to have one as a pet. Their bite would not feel good at all. Remember, these guys are crushing through large fish, and if they can crush through a large bass or crush through a crayfish, it's not going to feel good if it were to bite you. But yeah, they have pretty good sized teeth. The rest of the teeth are just like us, like grinding and incisors. So.
How can you tell a male from a female?
The males are typically bigger, almost always bigger, by just a little bit. On Charlotte, you can especially tell when she's pregnant. Besides general anatomy, and you just have to look for the bigger of the two, stand them right next to each other.
What time on Wednesdays are they fed minnows?
It kind of random when our commissary or our nutrition services delivers the fish. We typically give it to them. A lot of times it's right around noon, about lunchtime. Feel free if you see any keeper in the swamp and you happen to be here on Wednesday when they're going to feed the otters. We'll try to find that information for you.
How long have Benny and Charlotte been together?
Benny and Charlotte have been together for, I believe, about 8 years now.
Are they related to muskrats?
Muskrats? No, muskrats are actually rodents. So these guys are different than them. They don't have that ever-growing teeth.
And can you remind us how many babies they usually have at once?
Babies are usually about 1 to 3. They can have up to 5 or 6, but that's quite uncommon. 1 to 3 yipping little babies is quite a bit to handle for both her and for us.
Do they travel around in the wild, or do they typically live in one place?
They do travel around. The times that they will move from area to area, a lot of times is in the winter, where, say, their area that they would fish or would hunt for food maybe is too frozen over and they can't get in. They will move from body of water to body of water. They can easily travel tens of miles in a day to get to the next food source. They move around a lot better during the winter. A lot of people may have seen, if you watch videos where the otters will actually slide kind of through the snow. They'll actually find an area and they can just lightly push themselves because they're so slick and smooth. They can actually just lightly push themselves and then just slip and slide through the snow.
In the wild, are they solitary or do they live in groups?
You know, they can live in large groups. It's a very interesting living situation. They don't consider themselves territorial. It's more of a mutual avoidance where we all hang around in a group of sometimes up to 10, but we don't claim this territory as our own as a group or as an individual. We just kind of move where other people aren't or other animals aren't. But they can live in large groups. The male and females will typically pair up.
Do they mate for life?
Just about. There can be other mates that come in, but the males will defend their females.
What's their favorite type of enrichment to play with?
It's, I think, on a personal level, just, a lot of animals have personal preferences what toys they like. For what I have found is Benny is not the biggest fan of most enrichment. If food is involved, he likes the enrichment. If food is not involved, he'll let Charlotte have it. But Charlotte's favorite type of enrichment that I have found is actually the hose. She doesn't like to be sprayed with the hose by any means, but she likes it when you give her a hose with running water. She'll actually play with it in the water, throw it about in the air, and literally get herself soaking wet with the hose, but not, she doesn't want you to be involved.
Do they make dens or dams, or do they just find a hole to live in?
They do not make dens. They utilize other animals' dens. Bears, badgers, any large hole that burrowing animals would make, they will take that den as their own. For the only 2 months is gestation, so it only takes 2 months for them to go from pregnancy to birth. So they don't. It's a short lease on a den, so it's only 2 months and they're out. The kids will grow up pretty fast, and once the kids can swim, they'll move on.
What does their fur feel like?
Their fur feels very slick, very smooth. When it's soaking wet, it's almost like holding a wet towel. You can almost like wring the water out of it, but when you do, it's just a lot of it comes out. As you can see her swim, that air comes out. So she actually groomed all that air in there, and that helps to keep her body warmer. Yeah, they are pretty much always some sort of damp. So hopefully you've enjoyed everything we had to say about the otters. Hopefully you'll come and visit Benny and Charlotte when you can. We would like to thank you, or I would like to thank you for joining me today, and the zoo would like to thank you for your continuing support. All right, take care.